Hey Tongal viewers, I'm Ryan Larkin and I'm here today with Nanea Miyata. Nanea is a Japanese-Hawaiian writer-director who's created a number of well-reviewed films for Lifetime and whose career began on Tongal. Nanea, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Ryan.
Can you tell us about yourself and your work?
I am a filmmaker. It's really actually wonderful to be able to say that Tongal is responsible for helping me get there. I have a couple of production companies and we produce feature films for television.
You kind of foresaw my second question, which can you kind of tell us about your time working with Tongal? What was your first Tongal project?
Honestly, I think my first project with Tongal was in 2015. I had heard of Tongal through a friend who was producing a commercial project for someone else, so another writer-director, and she was a producer on the project, and we were just good friends, and honestly she just needed help as like an ADPA on this very small shoot, and I went along with her for this, and I thought, oh, this is like a big brand that we're doing this little shoot with, and how did this happen? How are we doing this spot? And she had mentioned Tongal, and so that's how I looked into Tongal, and at the time I was independently producing music videos, commercials for clients that I could find directly, so like small companies, that kind of like back home stuff, and was wanting to be able to take that next step. So Tongal seemed like the perfect opportunity. And I don't know how many pitches I did on Tongal before I was able to get one, but it was a lot. I was really trying to get my foot in the door, but I didn't have like a big portfolio or a big reel yet. I was just starting. So the first spot that I actually got was for BarkBox. This is actually the reason I have my dog now too, which is pretty funny. So I was doing a spot for, it was a very small digital YouTube kind of series video for BarkBox. And that was the very first project that I did for them. And it was a very quick little thing. It was cute. We just told a story of a real dog rescue. So the story of a puppy going from rescue shelter to finding a forever home. And that was the first spot. And as I said, that's actually how I ended up with my dog. It gave me a little bit of, I felt like I really needed to adopt a dog, and I did that month. So it's great. I've had her 6 years now. She's the love of my life. So it was a great decision. But it was actually because of BarkBox and being around the dog rescue with all of these puppies that were looking for a home. And then my first big spot for Tongal, because that was like a very small, simple project, but one that I wanted to do like a bigger, award budget for a big brand, was for International Delight. And I was very lucky with this one that they were looking for a parody musical commercial, and I have a background in music. And this was finally where I was able to get something because it was my niche. So I had a ton of musical content. I've written musicals, so I had a stage background. I had the stuff that I did have plenty of video for were music videos. So I was able to sell them on us being the right team to make a music parody spot. And it was actually, I think I made a pitch video whereupon I wrote a song and sang it as my pitch. So I think that's actually what I did for that one. And it was great. And once I got that one done, that was a bigger budget production, and it was so much fun, and we had a blast, and Tongal loved it. And I think it was actually nominated for the Tongies that year. And that was the first spot. Once I had that, I was now in the running to get more, which was great.
What motivates you to tell the stories that you tell?
As far as what kind of story, for me, is it told well? Do I believe it? Is it something that opens my eyes to a perspective that I haven't seen before? Is it something that gets me to think in a way that I haven't thought before, to feel something I haven't, to, just really something that opens our eyes to something outside of our daily or everyday life? And that's so much of storytelling. So really I'm a huge fan of everything that's all over the map. I love escapism. I love anything that educates me about, some particular problem or something in the world that I wasn't aware of. And then honestly, there's just anything. I feel like every story that we consume broadens us and our ability to empathize and to care and to motivate change for the future just as humans. So anytime that there's a voice that we haven't heard, or just something that gets you to think a little bit differently, I think that's the whole point. That's why we're here. I think that's why stories are so important, and that's why they're so magical, really. I know it sounds so cheesy to say, but ultimately I inherently believe that stories change the world.
Can you tell us a little bit about Christmas Harmony and just what it was like getting your first feature together?
Totally honest answer. Christmas Harmony was not the first feature screenplay that I wrote. In fact, I guess it was the third. The first one I wrote wasn't animated, but the first one that I wanted to make is this total dystopian sci-fi, high concept, post-apocalyptic, very art house screenplay. And I really wanted to make this movie, and I wanted that to be my first film. So this is after 3 years of really working on Tongal and loving it, and being able to use Tongal as that platform to build up my production company and to buy equipment and to learn how to do things. So that was amazing. The crew that I built over those 3 years of just being able to work on these projects, like you just build your film family. And we learned how to go to battle through these Tongal projects, which was amazing. And so I was ready to take on my first feature film, and wanted to make this sci-fi script that was very near and dear to my heart. And ultimately, looking at doing that on an indie budget just didn't seem possible to me. It was one of those things where for this level of world building and everything that we need to do, I mean, the production design alone, it just didn't seem possible to do on a shoestring budget without it just kind of losing everything that it really should be.
Yeah, you didn't want to compromise your vision to death.
Yeah, and it really bummed me out, and I was like, you know what, maybe I can make the short of this, but just the short alone was going to be insanely expensive because you still have your costs of building the set and everything, and it was just, so I was a little bummed out, and I'm home for the holidays, and I'm at my parents' house, and they're watching the Hallmark Channel, and this was December of 2017 when this happened, and I had never watched the Hallmark Channel before. I didn't know that they had one, and they just had this on all day, and it was just Christmas movie after Christmas movie, and I was floored. I was like, wait, what? And every movie seemed to be the same movie with the same kind of looking people and the same story, and yet on the bottom is flashing world premiere, and I'm thinking, wait, what? This is a world premiere now. They're airing. Wait, someone is making this now. Someone is getting paid to do this now. And I'm talking to my parents about it, and they're like loving it. They're super into these. I was like, you guys like this? This is the same story over and over. And my mom goes, I love it. I can walk away and I don't have to pay attention. I come back and I still know exactly what's going on. And it was so funny. And I thought, this is insane. And so of course, my brain goes, wait, someone is doing this. I can do this. I should do this. So I went home and I watched like 10 of these movies in a row, and I just soaked up this, Christmas genre, and it was interesting, and I learned a lot, and I just kind of watched all of them and learned the formula. And for me, I once upon a time was a teenage girl, still act like one, but I loved the rom-com genre, and at the time, like, it really had disappeared. Rom-coms are kind of making a comeback now, but those blockbuster films disappeared, but I grew up on those movies, and I realized, oh wait, the Christmas movie is the new rom-com. It's for people like me. That's just where it shifted. It's these cheesy stories this way. Okay, I got this. This is like in my blood. I totally know how to do this. So I wrote Christmas Harmony, honestly, in the span of a week, because it felt a little like paint by numbers. There's like a formula to follow, and I thought, well, what's one thing I can do to give it a creative edge? And just like how I got started on Tongal, I thought, you know what, I'm going to use my music background. I'm going to make it a musical. I still wanted to have heart, and I still wanted it to be about things that matter to me. And so there is that voice that comes through a little bit. And, personally, I love Christmas, and I love family, and I love these things. So it's, while I'm sitting here making fun of it, like at the end of the day, I revere it as well. So so there is a sincerity, I think, that comes through in it as well, because it is sincere, and I do care about this movie. And I mean, anyway, so that was how it happened. I wrote the script in a week, and in January, I'm talking to my producing partner, who also, produced the Tongal projects with me. She read the script and thought, this is great, we should do this. And we were like, great, I don't know anything about doing this or how to pitch it. And we were like, well, we'll just make it. And I started to try to ask around town, like, how much do these Christmas movies sell for? didn't get anything definitive, got some vague answers, and then tried to ballpark my budget to be underneath the lowest purchase price that I knew for this movie. Just so I was like, look, I don't want to, we're just going to try to make it so that we don't lose money on it. And that's the goal. Let's just like make it less than what we think it's going to sell for. And that's that, just to try to get a project done, and we'll do it fast. So, and it was fast. So, we decided in February to do it. We were raising the money and prepping in March, and I started shooting in April. And we found this beautiful little town in Colorado, and we did real snow because, again, indie budget, we couldn't really afford a snow team. So we went and suffered in the middle of the snow with a very small crew and a wonderful cast. I'm so lucky with the cast that we had, and made a little movie. And that was, and it's it was a wonderful experience. And then it was a wonderful little success story because we were able to sell the film. So I edited the movie as well. So we shot the whole thing, and I got it cut in time to sell it that year. So in the summer of that year, we sent out trailers and screeners, and we were lucky to get a couple offers on it. And we ultimately sold the film to Lifetime, and it aired Thanksgiving of that year. And it still plays. So, yeah, it's great.
And the reviews are pretty good. I looked them up. People do respond to that movie. I think for the same reason that so many people tune into the Hallmark Channel every year.
You can tell that it's a low-budget film. I mean, people, I think, are really shocked when they find out how much we actually made it for, which is also not public information. But everyone was just kind of down to do a solid and work for a little under rate. And we got a lot of... called in every favor we have, really. I mean, it was hard. But also just very, very rewarding.
You touched a little bit upon this, but I was going to ask, how did you manage to get on Lifetime's radar? You mentioned you sent out screeners. What was that process like?
Just like pure luck. And actually, this is a good thing because this is some advice that I would impart to anyone, and it's something that I actually struggle with. So as far as how we were actually able to get connected with Lifetime, it was luck. It was luck, and it was connections that I didn't know existed, and it was a little bit of smartness on my co-producer's part. So we were lucky to get Chandra Wilson from Grey's Anatomy to guest star in the movie, and when we got her, my producing partner really thought that we needed to get like some publicity or PR about it and make a cast announcement, like you see those cast announcements in Deadline. And I really didn't see the point. I was like, why? We don't need to do that. And she was like, no, we should really try. So we went out to just see if it would get picked up, and it did. And Variety did a little cast announcement article about Chandra Wilson joining our film, and it named the other members of our cast, and I posted it on Facebook. And lo and behold, this friend of mine just says, hey, congratulations on this movie. I work in Miramax distribution. Would this be something for us? And I was like, oh my gosh, you're so sweet. And I kind of laughed it off. I'm like, no, it's not. This is like a Hallmark Lifetime. And he goes, oh, well, one of my friends just moved to Lifetime, works in acquisitions. Would you like an intro? And I said, yes. And he was like, yeah, great, let's stay in touch. And I hadn't finished really with my full screener assembly at the time yet, because that was just based off the article posting. But he said, let me know when you have something. And so, being this friend who works in distribution and me not knowing what I was doing, I sent him my first trailer edit, which is the trailer I was going to use to send out to try to gauge interest for distribution. And I just sent it to him, and I said, hey, can you just give me, don't share it around. I just want your opinion on whether you think this works or not, or give me notes. And his reply was, don't hate me. I sent it to my friend at Lifetime. She loves it. They want to see the movie. What? You explicitly ignored my instructions of not sharing. But it was that quick. So I sent the screener once I had it a couple days later, and honestly, they got back to me within a couple of days, and that's why we started our conversation. So that was sheer luck. I didn't go through like a sales agent or anything. We didn't have to do that. It was just it was through this wonderful friend who just did this out of the goodness of his heart. And I guess that's the moral of this really long story, is that for me, self-promoting on social media, it's just really hard for me, and I struggle with it. I make so few posts that you can on my Instagram page, it's like you just scroll one thing and you're like you've seen 2 years of content already. It's like I'm just not great at it. However, I think it's important. So when people talk about that, and they talk about Facebook, and I wouldn't have sold this movie. I wouldn't have been able to do this without posting that Variety article. So it, even while it's hard and it stinks sometimes and it feels a little like, oh gosh, I don't know, it's important to, you know, stay on the radar, because you never know where a connection is going to come from and where it's going to take you.
You mentioned over and over again the idea that it was such a lucky break, but again, it all started with that, you know, you going home to your parents and seeing them watching the Christmas movies, and then having the idea to write one, and then just making it without like having a guarantee that you were gonna, like, you know, profit off of it.
You know, I think the first time I heard this quote, maybe it's older and from somewhere else, but it's from a movie called Little Black Book that I saw when I was younger. But in it, she opens up the film by saying that, I guess, that her mother always told her that luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yes.
And that has resonated with me forever, and I love that. And I do believe that, and it is, you know, it was being prepared. I mean, really, we were doing these projects like through Tongal, thank goodness, for years. And honestly, as far as being able to sell the film so easily, it was a good movie because my crew is so good, you know? I mean, and they worked so hard and all went above and beyond the call of duty, because we all inherently care. You know, we know what kind of film we're making, but we were still giving 10,000%. And honestly, even my cast and everyone, I mean, there was a 15-degree blizzard night, and my poor actress was like not even in a coat. It was like the climax of the movie, or the big number. And so she's in this beautiful little red holiday dress, but it was so cold. And there's stuff like that where it's just, we all really went to battle. And the thing is, it shows all of those bits, all of that love, all of that effort that seemed like maybe we were doing a little too much at the time. I think that's ultimately what you know, allows us to look back and be proud of the film, and to, you know, to that was how we knew that we were going to be able to have something special, was because everyone gave everyone gave their heart and souls to it, and it shows.
I have to ask, favorite anecdote from set?
The thing is, all of the anecdotes, like, it's just kind of about sheer misery, which is what, I mean, that night I was talking about. So we had to divide the final, like, so it's Christmas Harmony, so it ends with like a concert and a music performance, and that whole ending scene is a bit long. There's a lot of little moments and vignettes and scenes wrapping up the film and a music performance. So this was divided over 2 nights. Night 1, yes, it was cold, but clear sky, just beautiful. Air is still, so it's great. We're shooting our coverage, and that's great. Night 2, blizzard, horizontal snow, just tons of horizontal snow. I mean, this wind was like, I mean, it was just dangerous. It was crazy. And we had to finish the rest of the content that's supposed to intercut with the scenes that we had shot that there was no snow. And with my tiny crew, I mean tiny, as far as like G&E, we literally I had my key grip and my gaffer. Everyone else is doing, I mean, so we're all doing everything. But this is amazing. So my key grip, his name is Jonathan Gomez. On the second night, we're ready for the heartbreaking scene. It's a scene that makes everyone in the movie cry. It's the heartfelt scene with Harmony and her father, where they're really just kind of laying everything all bare and just actually doing the healing that they need to do in this movie. And it's supposed to be this beautiful, quiet, little intimate thing. But we're outside where there's this raging blizzard happening. And so my key grip builds what can only be described as a giant pirate sail. I mean, we just have this giant, it's just huge. It's like muzz that we just have up on this frame. And in the wind, though, we have everyone is like, I am literally standing on a stand with a stand bag on it, holding this thing. And we're all standing holding this giant sail to block the actors to have this little scene. And they are maybe 6 feet from me, and I can't hear them. It's like I'm yelling at them to give them the direction, and they kind of have to raise their voice. And the scene is playing, and I'm just watching, but I can't hear anything because the wind is so loud. And I'm thinking, this is insane. Like, this is never gonna. I mean, you just feel destroyed, and everyone is none of the crew can hear each other. We're all just. I mean, it was insane. It really felt like being on a pirate ship at sea at the time, and we're trying to do this intimate scene. And how on earth the sound was clear and we didn't have to ADR, I don't know. My sound recordist is a genius, and he was a one-man show too, and it's great, and the scene is beautiful with the actors, and it plays so well. It's just so beautiful. And you know, at the end of the night, bless my crew, this whole film of ours, we were literally chiseling stingers out of black ice. It just froze over. And so it's like we're trying to wrap out literally on just sheets of ice in the snow, and all of the stingers had frozen over, and we, like, legitimately, it's like 2 a.m, and we're chiseling stingers out of ice and trying to rap out. So anyway, that's my crazy anecdote. When you see the movie, it's you wouldn't know.
Do you happen to have any set photos from?
Funniest thing about that is no, we have no set
No.
photos. Obviously, because everyone was doing something.
Well, yeah.
We just didn't have anyone to take. I have set photos from other less crazy days, but there's nothing from that night.
How closely do you work with your editor?
No money. I edited the movie myself, and editing was. I edited all the projects I did for Tongal. So really, Tongal was my film school. It was amazing. And yeah, so I edited that movie. I edited my second feature as well. And the most recent film that I directed, which actually airs tomorrow night, it premieres tomorrow, which is very funny.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that was my first time as a director for hire. So I did not write I co-wrote it, but I didn't produce that movie. So it was my first time on a movie actually just being a director, which was, director and writer. But it was that my first experience with that, which was cool. And that was the first time I worked with an editor, which was also a great experience because he was a great guy and a great editor. But yeah, typically post-production is quite a challenge for me. I love editing. I love it so much. I don't love all of the crazy technical stuff that I guess an AE would normally be doing is challenging.
Speaking of doing what you have to do under challenging circumstances, can you tell me about Dead in the Water? Because I heard that this came together under the most challenging circumstances.
Well, okay. So we were set in the beginning of 2020, March 2020. We were set to start our next Christmas film. And we were also going to be going on location for that. It was this big thing. And you know how when you're coming up to your big project, like the adrenaline, you're not getting sleep. It's crazy, crazy go time. There's not enough hours in the day. And we were a week out from flying cast and crew out to start production. And then the pandemic happened. I didn't take this very well. There was something about that shift in momentum, right? So that in the whole inertia of it all from going just full speed ahead to just like nothing, that gave me a lot of anxiety. Obviously, the whole world, we all know what we were going through with the pandemic, but I had this insane frustration. Thank goodness I had a couple of, and really I do just mean a couple of friends that we were a little pod during the pandemic to be, support for one another. And that was it. Because I also learned during the pandemic that I'm extroverted. I didn't know that until that happened. And suddenly I was just really down all the time, just not being able to see people. And because that's what inspires me to create and do things. And I wasn't getting that. So it was like even writing a thing was hard. I was just bummed. And I heard of a story that another DP was telling me about him wrapping a feature. And like, this was in May. He was like, oh yeah, I just wrapped a feature we were shooting this weekend. I was like, wait, what? How? He was like, well, it's a really small cast, and it's a really small crew. And I was like, but wait, is it SAG? And he said, yeah, it's SAG. And I was like, how? I thought nothing could be shooting right now. And he was like, oh, I don't know. I'm not a producer. I'm just the DP. And I was like, okay, I need to look into this. So I immediately call up my partner co-producer, and I was like, oh my gosh, we need to make a movie. We can do this. Like, we need a small cast movie, one location. Like, let's do this. Let's figure out something that we can do that's right up this alley. And we brainstormed a couple of ideas. We were, thinking, should we go horror? What should we do? And then ultimately we decided, okay, we have a relationship with Lifetime. Let's try to aim for like the Lifetime style thriller with a small cast. So we outlined like a story that we thought that we could do in like a day that would take place mainly at one location. And I kid you not, this is the fastest I've ever written anything. I wrote the script in 3 days.
Wow.
It was just all that pent up energy from a month of pandemic and being frustrated. And it was very fast. I think that was my record writing. There was the last day of writing, I wrote 43 pages in one day. And it was crazy. And that's, ultimately that's why the movie suffers a little bit. Like, it's not like it's the greatest script ever, but it was fast. And so finished that script. And myself and my producing partner, we went to go scout to figure out where we could shoot it. And I just had dreams of shooting it in Oregon. So we drove up to Oregon, started looking for houses and places that felt secluded and like what we wanted for the story, and found a spot. And on the way back, we were literally casting while we were in Oregon. It was like calling friends and friends of friends to try to figure out who we could put in this, who was going to be down. And we assembled a very small crew. We literally made this movie with a 7-person crew. which is really not super recommended. It was really hard, but it was so fun. So it was like the movie ended up being, it's technically 5 cast members, but 2 of them were only there for like a day or 2. It was like 10 of us crashing in this house in Oregon for a month during the pandemic. And it was, honestly, it saved my life that year. It was like so much better to be absolutely dying and miserable to making this movie with such a small team than it was for me to be just super depressed and not doing anything at home. And so, I mean, I'm so grateful for this film family that was all willing to come out and do this and suffer through just insane shooting. I mean, because we were quite ambitious. You know, we had a 7-person crew, but we shot the whole film on dolly. So we're all literally moving dolly with I have these photos of it's so amazing. Like our sound mixer recorder, he's like wearing all of his sound gear, carrying a boom and carrying dolly track, and we're all just doing this in level. It's crazy, and that's how we made this movie. It was everyone was willing to wear 10 hats a person, and gosh, the cast is amazing. They're so wonderful. And then we were a little film fam. And so we all just quarantined together and like didn't leave this house for during the pandemic, and it was great.
What is it like producing content for networks like Lifetime versus the sorts of clients you'd find on Tongal? Is it similar or different?
It's honestly, I feel like it's the same thing. It's very similar. So, Tongal was such a great school for the client mandate on, what exactly they're looking for, what their marketing position is or their branding and what they really want to show. And in my experience, it's going to be the same, right? Because that's all they are too. They're also clients that have a message and a branding that they want to maintain. And I find it to be very similar. I mean, aside from the difference of like, you have to open up with this product shot for 3 seconds before you see anything else. It's like those things, less specific, but it's really the same thing. It's managing a lot of different opinions. It's managing an overall image. I mean, honestly, with Dead in the Water, that was a concern too. It was towing the line of, we want to add some scary horror elements, but we can't really get too bloody because this is not a thing that is okay. And you have to, you want it to be sexy, but it can't be too sexy because it's got to get this rating. So it's like, you're just doing a balance of that sort of dance. I find it to be really, really similar.
What advice would you offer to Tongalers who are looking to kind of follow in your footsteps?
The advice that I would give to Tongalers who are, honestly, just wanting to create or do anything is just to do it. My motto is make it till you make it. Your most important project is always going to be your next one, So people always say like, what's your favorite one? It's, the next one, it's that. I think, and I think that's my advice. I think going for it is always better than not. You're not going to learn by not doing anything. So go out there, make the mistakes, make that bad movie, make that super bad music video, because you're going to learn something from it. And then maybe the next one won't be so bad. It's like, I think that's all I would have to say. Just do it.
Fair enough. I want Make It Till You Make It on a poster behind me right now.
I love it. I wanted that to be like my company name. And it was like, that's not really a name that works, but that's seriously my motto. It's like, that's my favorite.
What are you working on now? Is it the most important thing you've ever worked on?
Oh gosh, right now I have too many things I think going on right now. I'm very excited about all of them equally. I think we have about, I'm sitting on like 7 screenplays at the moment that are each kind of getting their own traction in other places. I think the next thing that's definitely going to be up is going to be a holiday film, just because we're coming into that season where the weather is right for that. But yeah, it's for me. I want to keep doing more, make more content. I'm a little antsy. I feel like I had wanted to shoot something this month, and ultimately I've been discussing with my producing partners. Trying to, as we were talking about, become a little less scrappy. So as opposed to just running and gunning and going out there and doing it the way that I'm inclined to do, they're saying we should try this method where maybe we go a little more traditional and we take a little more time and we line up these other outlets and we have a little more money to do the thing and it can be a little bit bigger. And I was like, okay, great, we're going to try that. And of course I'm so antsy. I'm like, when am I just going to make something? So I don't know how that long that will last and if I'll do something just quick and scrappy in the meantime. But yeah, just trying to keep it going. Just want to always be working on something. We always have something in the pipeline that's ready to go. And, I think what I'm waiting to find out is how big of a production are we going to make a thing? And is it going to be just, we're going to do more of the same where we do it on a, small micro budget independently and then sell it? Or is it something that we take a little more time and actually develop with a network or something? So that's where I am.
To get a little bit more specific, what is the passion project? What's the thing that's, the back pocket idea that you have in the pipeline that if you had all the money in the world, you would want to make?
There's two. So one, this is going to come out of nowhere. So as far as the big passion project that's in the back pocket forever, I would say that there's two things really. And one, this is going to sound completely out of left field because I haven't talked about this at all, but one is that I really want to make a feature-length documentary about the syndrome that my sister has and the fight to cure it. It's a very devastating and severe neurological disorder with symptoms like Parkinson's, epilepsy, cerebral palsy, autism, like all in one child. It's very sad. And what this syndrome actually does is children born with it, mostly girls, it's like over 97% of cases are female, develop relatively normally until about 2 years of age. And then they start to then lose all of the skills that they had gained and they regress. And what ends up happening is they're like basically dragged back, kicking and screaming into bodies that stop working for them.
Is there a name for this syndrome?
It's called Rett syndrome. It's incredibly devastating, but it's also incredibly hopeful because it's non-degenerative. So these are fully capable, aware, active minds that are just locked in bodies that don't work and don't allow them to show what's going on in their mind. They're not able to communicate. They're not able to use their hands. But cognitively, they're as sharp as you and me. And that's what makes it very sad. But it's also hopeful in that it's non-degenerative because it's also been proven to be reversible. And in 2007, I think it was, they actually proved this reversibility by reversing the syndrome in mice models. But here we are in 2021, and we're still trying to take that step from mouse to human. And it takes time, but we're close. And there's a lot of different methods and therapies and ways that they're trying to get there. And honestly, I believe this, and a lot of the professionals in the field believe this too, and doctors believe this as well, that this syndrome is going to be cured in our lifetime. How fast it happens is simply just a matter, it's that chance, but it's also largely funding. It's a rare disorder. There's only 350,000 individuals worldwide who have it, which is just small. We don't have a lot of exposure. There's not a lot of awareness. So it's a dramatically underfunded syndrome, which is just brutal because it's so hopeful because it's literally, we know the gene that causes it. It's been reversed in mice models. When can we save our girls? And that's where we're at. So, and the story I just think is so, the story of the fight to cure this syndrome is beautiful. I think one, having a child with syndrome is already devastating, and what you learn from that and what I've learned growing up in my family, having a sister who has it it's invaluable. It's wonderful. It really is. It's there's a nice silver lining, and you can look on the bright side. I mean, it's devastating and terrible, but I think that the open-mindedness, open-heartedness, and the tolerance that I was raised with is something that may not have been there if not for the adversity that my parents had to face with my sister, and I'm very grateful for that. But on top of it, the actual fight against Rett, it's led by parents of girls with Rett syndrome. And this organization that I work with and support was founded by a mother of a daughter with Rett syndrome. And these parents, these advocates for this cause, their passion, their dedication, their determination, their vulnerability, their relentlessness is just the most inspiring thing in the world to me. And how far we've been able to come because of just this grassroots effort that they are championing and fighting and leading is just wonderful. And this is my dream. I want to make a full-length documentary about this. I feel like I make a mini doc every year for our annual fundraiser, and I'd really like to tell this bigger story and share this because it's an incredibly inspiring story, and ultimately I want to raise awareness for the syndrome as well. And why haven't I done it? That's a harder question to answer. There's some opinions on it, and that maybe it is just a bit of an emotional, personal struggle for me, but it is one of those things that I would like to do. So if anyone out there wants to collaborate on a documentary, knows more about that genre, I'd love the help. And then the other big passion project, I always just want to be making content forever, but there is one project in particular that I would really love to launch, which is it's a musical television series. And I feel like if I could get that to happen, that would be the dream.
Where can people who watch this interview find your work?
You can see my work on Lifetime. In fact, we're coming up on the holiday season, so Christmas Harmony might be airing. Dead in the Water is also available on Lifetime. In fact, it was their premiere film on their streaming platform. They launched a new movie platform streaming that you can be a member of, and our film is on that as well. And actually, the latest film that I directed is actually premiering. Well, I don't know when this will air, but it's premiering tomorrow, so that'll also be airing on Lifetime. And yeah, I guess you can also see a lot of my older work on Tongal, and I'm really proud of a lot of the stuff that I did with Tongal. I mean, I did a musical short. I did a couple musical shorts for them too.
Do you have an online presence, a website or Vimeo page that you can direct people to?
Yes, I do. You can see snippets of some of my older portfolio work at my production company's website, which is www.junestreetstudios.com. And I have my own little URL that I don't keep very updated, but there's probably some content on there too. And that's www.naneamiyata.com.